Can a Muslim woman wear pant at job? Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. In order for our sisters to do a job is totally permissible, and just there's a few conditions to be met. There's several conditions to be met. Number one, she has to be in a proper hijab, and there's a many misconceptions about the hijab, that covering your hair is a hijab. Hijab is not covering a hair. Hijab is totally that you cover from the top, from head up to the toe, and the only thing that could be visible, that's the hands and the feet, and the clothing should be extremely very loose, that our sister's figure is not visible, and no curve of her breast area or her back area is not visible, and the curve should not be seen. And many sisters wear type of like a jeans, and they're wearing a shirt, and they're wearing covering their hair, and there's an extremely misconceptions about that. The covering hair is not a hijab, and this is against the Prophet ﷺ, and that's against the teachings of the Quran, because the Quran totally clearly mentioned that the woman has to draw their veils from the top to the bottom, so that covers the entire area. So why would the Quran will tell you to cover from the top to the down area? I mean, like even somebody is wearing a clothes, why do the Quran has to tell very clearly in clear words, draw their veils from top to bottom? So draw the veil means you have to cover something like a abaya type, or like a burqa type, that your figure is not visible. And the most recommended is to cover your face also, but that is not something clearly mentioned to cover your face anyway. But according to the Quran, this is totally very clear, but top from down, that also mentions like indirectly into that even the face is included in that, because this becomes like a really fitna when when our sisters they do not wear a proper hijab, because there's an extremely misconceptions between the Muslim sisters. They think covering the hair is hijab. Hijab is something, the back part of a woman should not show a curve, and the breast area should not show a curve of a woman. It has to be covered from top to down. I mean, absolutely no makeup, no perfume, and you should not wearing shoes that have a high heel that attracting while walking. It could attract strangers. Even wearing a perfume that could attract strangers, or some type of even. Now here comes another topic. Wearing a fashionable abaya is not a hijab. Hijab is something, it's not only for women, and the same rule applies for the men also. Wear a clothing that is not attracted to the opposite sex. What if you're wearing a fashionable abaya? So where is the hijab? Hijab means hidden. You have to hide yourself, because that's Allah's commandment. And those sisters who wear a makeup, and they were making a beautiful images, and wearing a beautiful clothes, fashionable clothes, when it's being asked them to, this is haram, this is against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the answer we get. Allah knows my heart. Allah knows my heart. This is just like a justification for my shaitan. They're doing against Allah, and now the shaitan is inside in the devil whisper. The shaitan is telling them, Allah knows my heart. I'm very clean in my heart. I'm not doing anything wrong. I just like it. Two deceptions. Number one, shaitan tells them, it is okay because I like it. I like to do that. I'm not doing anything wrong. Number two, they justify themselves. That's all. They're justifying themselves. So okay, I'm not doing anything wrong. My heart is very clean. But they don't understand that they are obeying shaitan. They are thinking they have an intention to please Allah, but they are having an intention to please shaitan, because wearing a type of clothes with a body curve is seen, this is haram. Wearing a makeup going to the public, that's haram. Wearing a makeup going to the public, that's haram. So I'm going to come back to my question. The question was being asked if the sisters can do a job with the pant. Yes, of course you can wear a pant, but the type of the pant should be something like kind of like a trouser, or it has to be extremely loose. That point to be noted. Her back curve should not be visible. The body, the clothing should not be stick to the body. The clothing should be a very loose. She has to be covered from the head all the way to the toe, except their hands and except their feet. I mean, of course, there were going to be shoes at the job. But wearing a type of the clothes, even it's a bank or it's a convenience store or whatever you want to work, you can work. And also there shouldn't be a touching with the opposite sex, and there shouldn't be any more interactions with the male. And those who has with the bad niyyah trying to interact with the female colleague at a job, she has to change her job, or she has to talk to the talk to the boss or the manager about that, like the specific person is trying to interact me again and again. So you need to work at the I would recommend you to work at some like Islamic environment, like an Islamic school, Islamic organization, Islamic school. There are plenty of jobs. Inshallah, Allah will help you. But wearing something going against Allah and going against the Prophet ﷺ, that might have the risk in this dunya, but you will be a loser in the day of judgment, because justifying yourself that you have a clean heart, and you justify yourself, okay, I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm clean inside and I like to do it. Do not justify yourself. You're doing against Allah. You are doing against the Prophet ﷺ. That's strictly, extremely, badly haram, because this is not causing the problem for you, but this is causing an extremely too much fitna, because there's a beautiful ayah in the I believe it's a Surah Nur, verse number 19. Those people who spread the scandal, because the word scandal is being used in many translations, and there's another word being used in another translations. It's not only the person who spread the evil. Because of him, people are getting sinned. So for an example, a sister wearing a makeup, a sister wearing the type of the clothes. Now naturally, opposite sex, his gaze will automatically go there. And who is going to get the first sin goes to the sister. The second sin goes to how many brothers going to be looking at that. And that's why the Quran says, whenever you see opposite sex, lower your gaze. Now lower gaze has several meanings. Many people say that, okay, should we walk like with the closed eyes? This is not what the Quran talking about. The Quran is talking about when you look at a woman at the first time and you know that it's a woman coming up, so the first gaze is ignored and it's cancelled. But the second gaze, the first gaze is unintentional. For an example, if you are walking on the street, and let's say you're walking and you saw a sister, like you saw anyone, that's something attracted to you, a woman or a beautiful girl with wearing a beautiful clothing, or she's wearing a bikini or anything, or she's wearing something like an attracting clothes, she's looking beautiful, it could be anything. So let's say a brother is walking and intentionally is like, okay, now this is the type of the gaze that is being forgiven, because he looked at it and he just ignored it. Now there's a second type of a gaze. You're walking, what was the second gaze for? Because what happened, the first gaze, he knew what he saw. Then the second gaze, he wanted to see what he saw there before. Now this is the type of the gaze that falls into the sin. The first gaze is forgiven. The second gaze is you sinned your eyes. because the adultery is the fahish, and the adultery and the sin is not only something you do with your hands. There's also sin that's something you do with your ears, with your eyes, and with your tongue. It's called zina of ears, and it's called zina of tongue, and it's also called zina of eye. So doing a second gaze, it's you did a zina of eyes, because what happens when we do this kind of evil thing, it goes into us and it corrupt our pure soul. The more getting into the corruption, the more we are distracting from the straight path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to stay our say, and we need to just surrender our wishes for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So those sisters who's working at the job, it is totally permitted for them to whatever where they can, but something that conditions has to meet, as I had mentioned earlier.